Nina Simone sang for an entire movement. Her voice was soft as smoke, sharp as a blade, and it made America stop and listen. Yet, in her final years, she lived alone on the French coast. No performances, no interviews. She passed away in silence. Next to her was an old piano and a song that was never sung. She was once an icon, but then she was banned from the airwaves, labeled difficult, dangerous, uncontrollable, watched by the FBI, betrayed by the very industry that once celebrated her. Some said she lost her mind. But did she? Or did she simply know too much? A friend once said she played a jarring chord every night, the same one from the song that got her erased from America. Inside her piano case, they found a letter folded 4 times, addressed to no one. It had one line: "I still have something to say." What was it? Who made Nina Simone vanish from the world she once set ablaze? Stick around, because this story, it's not just about music. Chapter 1. The Little Girl Rejected. Despite her perfect music. North Carolina, 1936. In a wooden house with a tin roof, a 3-year-old girl sat on a stool, her feet not touching the floor. In front of her was an old upright piano. Some keys chipped. No one taught her, yet she played her first hymn. Her name was Eunice Wayman. But later, the world would know her as Nina Simone. Her father, John, was once an entertainer, but a mild stroke left him unable to work. Her mother, a strict preacher, lived simply, believing music was for serving God. For them, music wasn't about fame. It was about endurance. From a young age, Eunice wasn't allowed to cry or laugh too loudly. She later said, "I didn't have a childhood. I only had duty." By 8, Eunice played her first Bach piece. The town buzzed. A black girl playing classical music. Impossible. But that's why her mother took her from church to fair, hoping one day her daughter would be a black Mozart. At 17, she applied to the prestigious Curtis Institute of Music. Her skill was beyond their standards. But then, rejected. No reason, no explanation, just a cold letter. "We cannot accept you." A classmate later said, Eunice seemed to know she'd be turned down, but she still hoped. When the letter came, she was silent for 3 days. That night, wind whistled through the trees outside. Nina lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She didn't cry. She just tapped a rhythm with her finger on the pillow. She kept that rejection letter for years, folded 4 times, tucked in her piano case. She never forgave them. Years later, after she'd made it big, a former Curtis admissions member admitted, "We were afraid audiences wouldn't accept a black classical artist." No one apologized. No one made it right. That girl, who dreamed of being a concert pianist, had to make a living playing piano in Atlantic City bars. But the bar owner said, "No one pays for instrumental music. You've got to sing." And so, a strange voice rose, sad as the sea breeze, angry as a maple tree snapping in autumn. Eunice was no longer Eunice. She chose a new name, Nina, meaning little one. Simone, from a French actress. Simone, she once said, was the person the world could accept. Eunice was just a memory tucked away. From that night on, every time she sat at the piano, she played a single note, letting it hang in the air, like a reproach sent to someone who'd never answer. Can you imagine it? A woman who dreamed of concert halls, now a nightclub singer, changing her name, her identity, just to exist. But that was just the start. She once said that the night Curtis rejected her, she played the piano in despair. "I knew I'd have to live with that pain, forever." Later, Nina said, "That was the day I stopped dreaming." And maybe the day she started getting angry. If the world rejected Nina Simone from the start, was the rest of her life one long act of revenge? Chapter 2. The song that put Nina in the FBI's sights. March 1964, a humid evening at the Village Gate nightclub in Greenwich Village, New York. The room was dead quiet. No clinking glasses, no whispers. Nina Simone stepped onto the stage, eyes on no one. The spotlight hit her. She started playing. The song was Mississippi Goddam. Her voice was cold, her eyes wide. The first line, "This is a show tune, but the show hasn't been written for it." The audience didn't know what they were hearing. Some chuckled nervously, others held their breath. Then came the chorus, Alabama's got me so upset. Tennessee made me lose my rest. No question. This wasn't a song to entertain. This was rage from a black woman who'd had enough. After the Birmingham church bombing, where 4 black girls were killed studying the Bible, Nina refused to stay silent. From then on, she wasn't just a singer. She was a warrior, a breaker of the entertainment industry's fake politeness, someone who didn't care about pleasing the crowd. After that song, radio stations banned her music. Studios canceled contracts. People turned their backs. But she didn't stop. She wrote For Women, Backlash Blues, To Be Young, Gifted in Black. She stood with activists, sang at funerals, held the hands of those who wept. An old manager said, Simone stopped selling. She demanded that her audience think. A white journalist wrote, Simone doesn't sing for us anymore. She sings against us. And that scared people. After that night, a strange sound crept into her music. In her apartment later, she'd often play a jarring chord. The opening of Mississippi Goddam. No one knew why. But it felt like a warning. Like the sound of anger that wouldn't fade. Declassified documents later showed the FBI opened a file on her in late 1967. It read, Nina Simone, spiritual influence on separatist groups, capable of inciting ideological violence. But it didn't say who ordered it. No arrests, no interrogations. The file just stopped. Once, she noticed a man standing under a streetlight as she left a recording studio, not smoking, not moving, just watching. No one confirmed who he was. But from that night, Simone kept her curtains drawn, even when practicing. On stage, she was fire. Backstage, it was different. By day, crowds cheered. By night, she wondered who'd knock on her door. A friend said, Simone always felt someone was watching, but she wasn't scared. She was just annoyed they didn't have the guts to face her. In a TV interview, when asked how she wanted to be remembered, Simone said simply, as someone who shook this world with just one piano key. Then she smiled. Not a warm smile, but the smile of someone who'd just broken free. Not everyone understood where her anger came from. They called her too intense, hard to work with, mentally unstable. No one asked if they'd been rejected their whole life, controlled, hurt, could they stay gentle? In an undated diary page, Simone wrote, if they don't understand, I have to scream. If they still don't understand, maybe I'm talking to corpses. And maybe that's where a new crack began. Was Nina Simone out of control, or just done being controlled? Chapter 3. Everyday abuse in her own home. After each show, when the applause faded, Nina Simone went straight to her Manhattan apartment. No chatting, no parties, just her and the piano. And then, that chord again. Jarring, over and over. She didn't tell anyone. She told the piano, as if it was the only one listening without judgment. In 1961, Nina married Andrew Stroud, an NYPD officer. At first, he made her feel safe, but then it turned to control. Orders, demands. A year later, their only child, Lisa, was born. That's when Nina started performing with bruises. Once, she covered her wrist with makeup, whispering, just fell down the stairs. Andrew went from cop to manager. He handled her schedule, contracts, dresses, even songs. When she wanted to cancel a show for laryngitis, he refused. The audience paid. She performed, lost her voice for 2 weeks. A friend said, after a bad show, Andrew didn't speak. He'd stand by the door, wait for the crowd to leave. Then they'd go home. The air felt like a storm was coming. Lisa remembers nights when her mother played in the dark, a single lamp on the keys, and that chord, over and over, suffocating. It wasn't music anymore. It was a cry for help with a melody. Their apartment once had a family photo in the living room. One day, Nina took it down. When Lisa asked why, she said, you can't keep a picture if it's not real anymore. Outside, Nina started losing control. At an airport, she refused to sign customs papers, shouting at the agent, I don't sign for people who exploit me. The press called it Simone's tantrum. No one asked why she snapped. Once, Lisa heard her mother laughing alone in the kitchen. When she got closer, Simone said, I'm talking to Bach. Not a joke. It was real. One night, she stood in front of a mirror in her stage dress, staring, and asked, "Who are you?" Not playful, like a warning from within. From then on, Simone's eyes changed. They'd avoid you, or look right through you, as if she was talking to someone no one could see. In an unsent letter, she wrote, "I'm a workhorse, a walking jukebox, a money machine, but I'm also a child who was never held." One night, she said, "I'm Simone on stage, but at home, I'm just Eunice, and no one loves Eunice." Can you imagine? A woman who silenced the world with her voice, didn't dare speak in her own home. If Nina Simone wasn't herself in her own family, where was she safe? Chapter 4. Simone left America, but her mind never escaped. In the late 1970s, Nina Simone vanished from America. No announcement, no goodbye. Just a note in her tour book. Gone. Indefinitely. She went to Liberia, then Switzerland, Holland, and finally France. A journey with no clear destination, no companions. They called it an extended European tour. But really, it was an escape. She left her daughter, her career, her audience. She took one thing, her piano. In Liberia, neighbors said, some nights, she sat on the porch, playing a chord over and over, like calling a spirit back. That same jarring chord. It followed her through forests, across seas, into rented rooms. Her playing grew quieter. Some nights, people heard shouts from her room. By morning, the door was open. She'd sit at the piano, eyes wide, hair messy, hands on the keys, silent. Friends couldn't reach her. Lisa got a few postcards with no return address. One just said, "Your mom's still alive." In Switzerland, she lived in a windowless apartment. No daytime outings, no weekdays, no show times. Simone woke when others slept, ate when she wasn't hungry, lived when she didn't want to live. A psychiatrist later said she showed signs of bipolar disorder, but she didn't treat it, didn't take meds. She only trusted her piano. In France, she once asked a friend, "What year is it?" When told 1983, she laughed. "I thought I was still in 1964. At a show in Italy, she wore the dress her ex-husband picked for her first tour. No one noticed. No one mentioned it. On stage, she'd pause. Long silences. Eyes down. Saying nothing. They didn't understand why. They just thought it was art. They called it Simone style. And clapped. One night in Rotterdam, she played that chord for 3 hours straight. Hotel staff called the police. When they knocked, Simone said, "I'm talking to the dead." A friend, one of the few still in touch, said, "I didn't know if she was still Nina or had gone back to being Eunice." Yet she kept performing, wore her robes, drew her eyeliner thick, sang Cinnamon, "Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood." But between songs, she'd pause for ages, sometimes played that old chord, unannounced. No one asked why. They just clapped, like a reflex. Like they were afraid she'd disappear again if they didn't. In a rare 1981 interview, she was asked why she left America. She said, "Because I wasn't human there. I was a voice, a statement, a trophy, but never Nina." If leaving America didn't make Nina Simone herself again, where could she go? Chapter 5. Simone's voice. Faded, but her pain stayed. In the early 1990s, Nina Simone lived in a small apartment in southern France, near the sea. No luxury, no noise. A place so quiet you could hear her fingers tapping on wood. Not a rhythm, a reminder. When neighbors played loud music, she banged on the wall. Some days, she played that jarring chord all afternoon, the one from Mississippi Goddam. It was like she couldn't let it go. Once, a fan met her at the post office and asked if she still performed. Simone looked at them and said, "I don't have a voice anymore, just an echo." Then walked away. Simone started having severe pain, sleepless nights, weight loss, talking to herself more. But she refused doctors. Some said she self-medicated, taking pills off schedule. When asked, she'd say, "I know myself better than they do." Still, she did small gigs in European cafes, not for money. Maybe because she needed to. On stage, same black dress, same piercing gaze. But once, mid "Ain't Got No," she stopped. The lyric cut off. Hands left the keys, eyes on the crowd. A long silence. Then, she played that chord. 3 times. No explanation, no continuation. They clapped, called it Simone style. In 1995, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She refused aggressive treatment, just asked for quiet. Her piano stayed by her bed. Sometimes, her housekeeper said, she sat for hours, touching the keys lightly. No sound. Like she was playing a song no one could hear. Lisa visited. One night, she heard her mother talking to herself. I don't know who I am anymore. I was Nina. Now, I'm just Eunice's breathing. When the voice is gone and only echoes remain, who's really listening? Chapter 6. She passed beside her piano. No last words. Spring 2003, Nina Simone lived in a small apartment near the coast in Carry-le-Rouet, southern France. No stage, no colored lights. Just the sea, the wind, and days without names. She woke at odd hours. Ate when not hungry. Stared out the window for hours. Her piano sat against the wall, draped with a thin cloth. But sometimes she opened it, didn't play a song, just tapped a few keys. That old chord. Still jarring, sudden, like an echo rooted deep inside her, impossible to pull out. Her housekeeper said some nights she sat at the piano in the dark, no lights. By morning, her glass was empty. An unfinished score sat crooked on the table. Notes, marks, scribbled words. I still have something to say, but no one asks. Lisa visited. They walked by the sea. Simone moved slowly, back slightly hunched. When Lisa asked, "What do you think about most these days?" Simone whispered, "I'm practicing disappearing. Not dying. Disappearing without leaving questions." But she left one question no one could answer. In France, she didn't sing. Yet she kept everything ready for a show. Stage dress hung in her bedroom. Low heels neatly aligned. Her piano case stayed cracked open, as if the music might return any moment. A friend said, once, I saw her sitting upright, head tilted, eyes closed, like she was listening to someone. But the room was so quiet, you could hear the clock tick. When asked, Simone said, I'm hearing things I was once afraid to hear. On her table was an unreleased score. No title, scattered single notes, broken, halting. And, at the start, that chord, the Mississippi Goddam chord, a note beside it, last time, April 21st, 2003. Her housekeeper didn't see her rise. When the door opened, she was still seated, hands on the piano lid, eyes closed, mouth slightly open. No letter, no last words. Just a red dress, carefully folded, the one from her first tour. Inside the pocket was the Curtis letter, folded 4 times, tucked away in silence. Lisa didn't cry. She sat by her mother, touched the piano. My mom left like she'd already left her body long ago, she said. She was just waiting for no one to bother her anymore. Some say Nina Simone's voice was gone by the 90s, but Lisa said her voice didn't go. It sank into the earth, the wind, or the forgotten still whisper. When an artist dies in silence, is it because we stayed quiet too late? Conclusion: the lonely end of a genius. Nina Simone was never an easy artist. She wasn't gentle. She didn't bow. She didn't accept the world's rules. And maybe that's why she was never truly heard to the end. She was born in a time when black people were called second-class citizens, yet dreamed of being a classical artist. She loved a man who protected her, then made her his property. She sang for civil rights, then was pushed out of the industry. She shouted what others feared, and was labeled mentally troubled. Nina Simone wasn't crazy. She just refused to pretend. Even with later honors, documentaries, awards, an honorary degree from Curtis, something was never given back. Not money, not fame, but acknowledgement that she was hurt, that the scream in her music was real. Today, people still listen to Simone's music, call her an icon. But how many know about that sad chord? The old dress no one remembers? The letter folded 4 times in her piano case? Maybe. Her voice never truly went silent. It was just buried, alive, in a world that wouldn't listen. Did Nina Simone go quiet? Or have we not been quiet enough to hear her?